Hello and welcome to the interview on France 24. My guest today is Ali Nazary, Head of Foreign Relations for the National Resistance Front of Afghanistan. Hello and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
On the 6th of September, the Taliban announced they had seized control of the Panjshir Valley. What is the situation today?
So a day before 6th of September, our military commanders gathered, had a meeting, and they concluded that a conventional resistance, a conventional war against the Taliban is impossible at the moment because Panjshir was besieged from all sides. The Taliban had much more equipment and arms and munitions compared to us. And we could have continued the conventional war for a few months, but then we would have exhausted everything that we had. So our military commanders made the ultimate decision, with the last decision, the final decision being made by Commander Ahmad Massoud, the leader of the National Resistance Front, that conventional war isn't the right path at the moment, that we have to use an unconventional method, guerrilla warfare, used in the 1980s against the Soviet Union. So we withdrew from the main valley of Panjshir to the sub-valleys. And 55 to 60% of Panjshir are the sub-valleys, running from southern Panjshir to the northern parts of Panjshir. So for us, it was a priority to withdraw. All of our bases are in the sub-valleys, and to keep the strategic positions, the mountaintops and other strategic positions. So the Taliban on the 6th of September came into the main valley, and the situation is like that at the moment. The Taliban have the main valley, which is just a road running from south of Panjshir to north of Panjshir, but all the sub-valleys are under our control. And this is something that was done back in the 1980s. The Soviets entered Panjshir 9 times. They took the main valley 9 times. However, they would get comfortable, they would stay and declare victory. But after a few weeks, or even a month, after a month or two, when the counteroffensive would happen, they would leave the valley humiliated and defeated. This happened 9 times. And that was the Red Army, which came via land and air. The Taliban just only came via ground, and in a few weeks we'll see what their situation is.
So is that propaganda from the Taliban? Are you saying that you're still in control of the Panjshir Valley?
Of course, it's propaganda. For the past 2 decades, their propaganda machine, which is being funded by countries like Pakistan, has generated such fake news and fictitious news. And they are continuing to do that on a daily basis, not only on Panjshir, but on the rest of the country and on the situation inside Afghanistan. So I wouldn't believe everything that the Taliban are saying. They are not victorious, and the resistance is continuing. Right now, we have thousands of resistance forces inside Panjshir. They're still there, and we are uploading footages of these resistance fighters on a daily basis in the mountains of Panjshir, on the mountaintops, in the sub-valleys of Panjshir, and we control more than half of Panjshir at the moment.
I have to ask this since there have been claims that Ahmad Massoud had fled Afghanistan. Where is the leader of the National Resistance Front today?
Cannot specify his exact location, but he's inside the country. He's besides his people, and he's somewhere safe.
He hasn't fled Afghanistan, and he's not planning to?
No, he's going to continue resistance until we achieve freedom and we achieve victory.
So are you still calling for an uprising of the Afghan people against the Taliban?
Of course, of course. The only way to defeat this terrorist group, this crime syndicate, this drug cartel, is through the resistance of the people of Afghanistan. The Taliban cannot represent the people of Afghanistan. The people of Afghanistan do not want the Taliban to represent them. The most members that are part of this crime syndicate is maybe 50,000. And they're aligned with groups like Al-Qaeda and other criminal and terrorist groups. They cannot form a government and a state to represent the people of Afghanistan. The only solution is to continue resistance and uprising until we're able to liberate the country from these terrorists.
Are you in talks with the Taliban?
Not at the moment. We had dialogue before they attacked Panjshir, and the reason we had dialogue was to give a chance, an opportunity to see if they have the will to form an inclusive government, because that was their narrative for the past few years, that we're in favor of an inclusive government, of inclusivity, to include everyone part of the power struggle. And for us, peace and inclusive government or inclusivity have certain meanings. Inclusivity means that everyone sees themselves in the power structure, in the decision-making process, in the policy-making process. If they aren't part of decision-making and policy-making, then that is not inclusive. We cannot have one political force dominating politics and others being tokens, being just symbols, having a symbolic position in power or in the government. So this was things that were raised during our dialogue with them before they attacked Panjshir in late August, early September. And we concluded that the Taliban are not sincere.
They are not to be trusted, according to you?
They are not to be trusted by anyone. The Taliban have betrayed everyone. They promised certain things to the Americans, to the Europeans, to the region, and to the people of Afghanistan. They haven't fulfilled any of their promises.
Which promises?
When it came to the West, especially to the United States, they promised that they will sever their ties with Al-Qaeda, sever their ties with terrorism. They will not allow Al-Qaeda to re-emerge inside Afghanistan and build their bases inside Afghanistan after 20 years of combating terrorism inside Afghanistan. However, right now, Al-Qaeda is throughout the country. They have thousands of fighters inside Afghanistan. They're present in every part of the country. Their leadership has returned to Afghanistan. And they even assisted the Taliban during the operation against Panjshir.
And what would be your conditions to take part within a government led by the Taliban?
Well, right now, there is no discussions on starting any type of negotiations. But if there is ever an opportunity, there has to be conditions met before any sort of dialogue starts, any sort of peace negotiations start on the future of Afghanistan. One is the Taliban withdrawing from all regions that they lack support in, all regions, and that's most of Afghanistan. Two, endorsing democracy as the only viable system, political system in Afghanistan, that the leadership of the country can only be elected through elections. Three, respecting the rights of all citizens, regardless of race, religion, and gender, and ensuring that justice will be established and freedom will be granted to every citizen. Those are conditions that should be met before we start any type of negotiation with them.
Antony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, said recently that the U.S. is staying in the game and will remain engaged with Afghanistan despite the withdrawal of its troops. What kind of relationship do you see with the United States?
Well, the current administration is trying to stay away from Afghanistan. It's ignoring the problem. But the last time the United States adopted such a policy and strategy towards Afghanistan, which was 1992, we saw what happened in the country, and 9/11 happened. At the moment, the current strategy, the current policy that the Biden administration has is not in the interests of neither the United States nor Afghanistan. It's going to destabilize Afghanistan. It's going to destroy destroy the last remaining democratic forces, the last remaining Western allies inside the country that is resisting the Taliban and other terrorist groups. And it's going to create a situation where if the United States is forced to return to Afghanistan, just how they were forced to return to Iraq, by the time they decide to return to Afghanistan, they won't have any allies left in the country.
Are you talking with the Biden administration?
I am in discussions with many parts of the U.S. government, with Congress and with others in the government, but we do not have any direct dialogue with the White House at the moment.
You were talking about the threat that the Taliban pose to the West, to Europe and to the United States. Are you saying we might witness new terrorist attacks?
The threat of terrorism is increasing every day because you have thousands of foreign forces enter Afghanistan from all nationalities. You have the leadership of Al-Qaeda return to the country. You have ISIS present inside Afghanistan.
I was going to ask about ISIS, the Islamic State in Afghanistan. Are you afraid that they might gain more power?
ISIS, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, all three are present inside Afghanistan. It's the same ideology. So for us, it is a concern that ISIS is present, but we're not only focused on ISIS, because the Taliban and Al-Qaeda have the same ideology, and Taliban themselves, many people here in the West, they portray them as a national group, that their ideology is only limited to Afghanistan, which is untrue. The Taliban leadership and their rank and file have expressed their desire to expand to other countries. A few days ago, one of their spokespersons said that the Amir of the Taliban, their supreme leader, is not only the leader of Afghanistan, but he's the leader of China, he's the leader of Pakistan, the leader of Iran, the leader of Syria, and many other countries in the region. This is why we're not focused on a specific group, but we're focused on global terrorism, which is a threat both to the people of Afghanistan and the West today.
Ali Nazary, thank you for talking to us.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching. Do stay tuned for more news on France 24.